Namaskaram. Good evening. Today is the fourth day of Ubuntu, the 5-day webinar series from Professional Trainers Club, Thrissur. Today, we have with us Shri M. Keshav, an expert corporate trainer from Chennai.
First of all, I want to congratulate the Professional Trainers Club Thrissur. And I think Ubuntu is a fantastic theme that you have selected to celebrate togetherness. Apart from thanking my friend Suresh, who I know from many, many years, from my youth when I was blessed to serve Swami Chinmayananda personally and learn from him, I owe thanks to all the people who are part of Ubuntu. So if you have given me your time, I must be grateful to you and respect it. And I hope that in the next few minutes that you spend discussing a topic that really is relevant for all of us, you will be happy that you spend time. Because, I always remember this very interesting quotation. Very well-known musician, Jimi Hendrix, you must have heard about him. Jimi Hendrix was a very, very colorful musician. But not many people know something very sensitive and sensible that he said in management. And I'm going to quote that to you today, that it is you actually who are wise because you are listening when knowledge speaks. So if you think that I'm knowledgeable and I'm here to speak, I think it is because you are there to listen. So Jimi Hendrix said, knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. And I think the greatest tool for feedback and influencing people today is the art of listening. If you listen to people well, you earn their respect and their attention. You can influence them to do what you want them to do, provided you're ready to do what they want you to do. And that is why Ubuntu is a perfect theme for the world today. I don't know whether you planned it that way, but I think it is one of the best selected themes that you can have for a seminar like this. Ubuntu is really the best tribute that you can give to the world during the COVID lockdown. We realize that I am because we are. Whatever I am today, it's because of the people who made me who I am. And I think that really we have learned the hard way. Unfortunately, we knew it all along, but we never believed in it. I think it took a virus to teach the world. In a way, the virus gave us feedback that we had to slow down and respect ourselves and respect others. Because after all, my topic is very simple. It is about the art of giving and getting feedback. Now, the best thing about feedback is that it is like advice. Everyone loves to give it. Nobody likes to take it. Right? And that leads me to a very interesting picture. If you can visualize this man trying to end his life. I'm sure all of you can understand what a joke that is. The man is about to die, and even for that, his darling little wife has an opinion on how he should commit suicide. And all he has to say is, before you start, darling, if I need your advice, I'll ask for it. And I think all of us have this problem when we give it, we're not aware. And of course, when we don't take it, I think most of us know good advice when it is given. And we also realize that we are actually being bullheaded when we don't accept it. So what is the art of giving and taking advice? Why is it an art? And why is it not a science? Why can't it be a skill that you can combine the art and the science and make it a management skill in your life? And today I'm very excited because the Professional Trainers Club is a need of the art, not just in Thrissur, not just in Kerala, not just all over India, not just in our parts of Asia where we live, but all over the world. Today we need to rebuild ourselves and our skills. Our management skills have to be rebuilt. And the only way we can start doing that is by giving feedback. Even at a physical level. We don't start a meeting today without asking, am I audible? I think you've heard different versions of people say that. They get so paranoid. Am I audible? That's how they start, and everyone can hear except them. And you don't know how to tell them in the virtual world that yes, yes, you are fine, carry on. You have to unmute and then mute. All kinds of things happen simply because without feedback, you cannot live in this world. Nobody is born alone. Nobody can live like an island. All we have to understand is we are interconnected. And unless we learn to create a win-win world, we're never going to be all winners. It's easy to win and forget the rest of the world. The real challenge is to believe that we need a win-win world. When I speak, if you listen, it's because you listen that I can continue speaking and we create a win-win relationship. So the very art of giving and taking feedback is the beginning of a win-win world and a win-win relationship. So I think all of us must realize that Ubuntu is a philosophy. It is not just a word. In fact, മലയാളത്തിലാവുമ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടാവും ഉബുണ്ടു ഉപ്മാവ് മാതിരിയൊക്കെ തോന്നും ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ഉബുണ്ടു ഉപ്പിട്ട് as they call it in Bangalore. So I think people have mutilated the word, but it is such a beautiful concept that if you believe that without the others, you cannot be who you are. And you should have total respect for yourself first, and you should have total respect for all the others, right? Equal respect for others. If you can create that win-win world, you have mastered the art of giving and getting feedback. So let's quickly look into it. But before that, let me also make a confession. നമ്മൾ ഇൻവിറ്റേഷനൊക്കെ കുറേ കാലമായി വാങ്ങിയതും മിസ്റ്റർ സുരേഷ് പറഞ്ഞതും ഇവര് ഫൈനലൈസ് അപ്പൊ എനിക്ക് ഐ forgot to tell all of you that I want you to bring two things for this seminar, especially. And I forgot. And then I thought, sitting in front of you on the screen, I thought, how do I tell you this? And then I said, okay, I'll check if you have it. If you have it, well and good, right? Because I wanted these two things for the next 1 hour that you're with me. But actually, you should have it all your life, but at least for my session. So what did I want from you to bring with you to this talk? One was a smile on your face. That's the best feedback you can ever give the world. It shows your confidence in facing any situation. However sad you are, and there is something called a sad smile. Your eyes can smile at all times with hope, even when you have the worst situation. Right? I can think of so many things that would have gone wrong in your life in the last 1 year. But there are people like Arunima Sinha, the example. I'll just mention a few names, make a note if you want, and follow it up if you like on Google, because they're very inspiring. So Arunima Sinha is an example of somebody who lost both her legs being thrown off a train because she resisted women being harassed on the train, including her. And she was thrown out of the train and lost both her legs. But she never gave up her will to be an India-level volleyball player, which she was. And then she came back to become a mountaineer. And within 15 months, she climbed Mount Everest with both legs prosthetics, artificial. I'm only giving you an extreme case, but I'm sure all of us have enough problems in the world. But it doesn't mean that you cannot smile. Of course, if you have a face like mine, some people say that, it reminds you of the great superstar of Chennai, where I live, okay, who is about to enter politics at the end of this month. I'm told that there is a physical resemblance. But when you have a face like mine, you need to smile to add face value. But I think everybody becomes more beautiful when they smile. Every moment. When you're in the worst crisis, a confident person looks up with a bright smile of the eyes that, yes, I'm going to face this. I'm not running away. So the best way you can lift your energy level and your enthusiasm is to smile. First feedback to the world when you can actually start the day. Actually, if you can wake up with a smile, nothing like it. Though you hate it, nobody really likes to get up early morning and get to work, right? There are some people who get up in the morning and say, "Good morning, God." And they're so happy because they're alive. And then there are people more like most of us, like me at least. Oh God, it's morning. If you don't have the enthusiasm to smile, it is not worth living. The first feedback that you can take and give, start smiling more. It will change your life. Okay, so I said, most of you, I hope I've smiled at least once when I was talking about it. But if you haven't, try smiling at least initially, what they call a plastic smile to impress somebody, right? And then later you'll find that you really enjoy smiling a lot. So that was one thing that I wanted from you. The second thing was an open mind. This is very critical for giving and taking feedback. You have to learn to keep an open mind when people are talking. An open mind doesn't mean it's so open that your brain will fall out. No. An open mind means maybe there is something in what was being said. Maybe that person has a point. Maybe I should think about it again. And I'm telling you, all great leaders and managers are people who take that little extra second to ponder on what others are saying, not just because the person is your boss or because you don't like the person, you don't shut the person off, but you just start thinking, maybe there is a process there that I need to, maybe I should have thought of it for the next time, I should try this. And your whole perspective changes. So the art of giving and taking feedback changes with two things. One is the smile, and the other is an open mind. A mind that lets you think of the possibilities that there is another world and another possibility, and therefore a win-win world, right? And this is the total respect that we need to give each other to create the new world. And I'm very happy that today's young generation, Gen X as we call them, I love to deal with them because they're far more open than we were. They're far more open. My children, I'm very proud of my daughter, and I'm sure all of you are proud of the youngsters you have, because they are far more open to change than we were, and we perhaps were not even as open as, or rather, we were perhaps a little more open or not as bad as our parents. But during the 60s and the 70s, the world was very closed and cold. Today we have even the tennis players of the 60s don't agree that you can be that friendly and still compete fiercely and make tons of money in a win-win tennis world where Nadal and Djokovic and Federer play each other for millions of dollars, nothing against each other personally, trying their best at all times. I think this is the India that we're all looking for. Can we give feedback when people are not doing well enough? Can we put them in touch with their reality without attacking them, without any animosity? Can we learn the art of disagreeing without becoming disagreeable? This is a fine art that all of us need to learn in management. Even if you're a teacher, even if you're even cooking, if you're teaching somebody. And today we are learning all kinds of new things at home because of the lockdown. We are learning new things from each other. And the best thing we can do is give them the feedback the right way. And there's a simple rule. In fact, I'm wasting your time because the rule of feedback is very simple. Give it the way you want it given to you. It's as simple as that. If you can think of that, there's nothing that actually needs to be done. How do you like taking it? Give it that way. Unfortunately, when we are kids, we practice double standards. We love all the attention, but we don't give it to others. We love to get angry, but we don't like people getting angry with us. And that's where we develop a huge challenge with the world. So I'm going to just touch on a few practical tips, and I hope that they'll help you. And as we go along, if you have some questions, great. If you don't have any questions, even better, because I think all of us know it's not that we are, it's not rocket science. You know, I remember one great soul from Kerala, right, whom we can never forget for the Indian Space Research Program, Dr. Kasturi Rangan. And he used to say that his wife used to make fun of him because he could not make a cup of tea in the morning. And for that, he depended on her. Even in his busiest days, he would work all night and crave for the morning cup of tea till his wife woke up to make it for him. And he'll say, and she would say, "Come on, why don't you also learn to make some tea?" And incidentally, that's what my wife is trying to tell me for so many years. Why don't you learn to make your own tea? And I said, "Oh, I know how. Dip, dip, dip. Very simple. You can't even attack me for making bad tea because it's so easy to make." But Dr. Kasurirangan's joke was his wife said, "Look, making tea is easy. It is no rocket science. Okay? It is no rocket science." Similarly, giving feedback and taking feedback is no rocket science. We were born with it. We just need to use it. So let me give you a few practical tips, okay? And I've just mentioned them as pointers. So you will have to, if you're interested, make a note and take little notes or mind maps so that you can jot them up later. But really, it is common sense. So what do I mean by physical feedback? Yeah. So physical communication, there are three feedback routes that really matter, which I call the three V's. When I'm talking to somebody, as I told you in virtual webinars, the first question is, am I audible? Can you hear me? Have I, all that. So the first thing is the what we call the verbal, right? Everybody needs verbal feedback, but that has only 7% impact on people. So you'll be surprised. How come that people say that it's only 7%? Because actually, there are two other things that are even more important, right? Many people, many relationships don't work because they say all the right things to each other, but they don't actually mean it in many senses. And the second V is vocal, the tone. So if I don't use the right tone, for example, if I don't use my emotions in my tone, oh, other Kito, Gambhiraito. Remember, you really, and in fact, people fake it when they go to other people's house, just to please them. They say, "Oh, Nanna in there." And then they say, "Korchudi in there." Vanda. That Vanda comes straight from the heart because you really don't want it, right? And you just faked it by saying, "Oh, I really love that stuff." So don't fake it. Nobody will take it. That's my mantra on verbal. Don't say things you don't mean. But if you mean it, learn to say it with feeling. So the second part of it is vocal, the tone, 38%. So you're saying, okay, 38 plus 7, 45. So what's the 55%? And that is what we call visual. When people look at you and talk, you can make out what is going on in their mind. Most people, when they leave the job, you can make out from the way they're talking that they're building towards leaving because their body language doesn't match what they are actually saying. In fact, Wayne Dyer even wrote a book based on what he made very famous. Listen to what I'm not saying, right? And that's a huge field in psychology. People talk about listening to things people are not saying because they're afraid of it. They hide it, but it comes out in their eye contact. It comes out in their body language. It comes out in the way they move towards certain people and away from certain people. And you can make out actually what is going on. So the three B's are very simple, but very, very difficult to practice. I hope it's a good tip for you. Even more interesting is what we call maintaining an adult mode in PAC. Now, I don't want to go too much into it because we have only an hour today. So what is PAC? Okay, typically transactional analysis was a beautiful science created by Eric Berne in the 50s in San Francisco. And you can read all about it, it doesn't matter. But what is PAC? The three ego states: parent, adult, child. What happens is normally when you take the parental mode, you bring out the child mode in the other person. So if you shouted at your child not to eat something, the immediate defiance will be to eat in front of you if they can. Normally with mom, you try that stunt and you push her. But with dad, you try even worse, rebellious ways. That is, without their knowledge, you start doing things. So instead of doing P to C, try to bring in A, which is the adult mode, which is to say, I don't mind you're eating it, but you're going to be sick at the end of it. You know, അധികം കഴിച്ചാൽ പ്രശ്നം ഉണ്ടാവും. ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇതാ ഈ മരുന്നും ഇതിൽ വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഇതും കഴിച്ചോളൂ. Something like that, where you can talk adult to adult, just the way you want to be talked to by others. So I would recommend most um, difficult conversations at work, adult mode. Try to keep it neutral of emotion. Because when you get into emotional mode, either parent pops out or most invariably child, and free child pops out. So I'm not going there more because there's no time. And most of all, I owe a lot of my thinking to my spiritual guru, as you heard about the opportunity that I had to be blessed by Swami Chinmayananda physically in serving him in many ways. And what we realize today is it doesn't matter whether you go to the temple, the church, or the mosque. Because to me, your spirituality depends on how you deal with your negative energy. Lots of people with negative thoughts go to the temple, and we all normally say, when you keep your slippers outside, remember it is your head and your heart, your brain and your heart. Keep it out. Stop judging people. Stop feeling anything towards people except to lift your mind to a level of neutral oneness. If you can practice that, it's great. But basically, in very, very simple terms, drain out all negative energy. It's as simple as that. So there will be a lot of negativity. Don't react. One simple term that I use is to say, don't react, but act on it. So today, of course, a lot of these issues happen every day at home, at work. Certainly at the national level today, the farmers are out against the government, and both sides are negotiating. One of the best books I would recommend is Hostage to the Table. It's written by a professional negotiator, global negotiator for governments against global terrorists. Very interesting German American who has written that book. Find out if you care. Right? I'm throwing it because I'm a quiz master, so I like to throw questions, and especially ask questions where I don't have to answer. So that's something for you to think about. So basically, what am I trying to say? Seek feedback for growth. If you want to grow in life, seek it. Go out and ask for feedback. By giving it, you start getting it. So when people don't give you feedback, start giving it to people. And you will find that somebody says, oh, you're telling me so much, I might as well tell you this. This is what I think about you. And to bring that, there are 4 elements in management that we talk about. Self-disclosure, the ability to be open about yourself relevantly for the right reasons and not all open all the time. So the ability to pick that is called self-disclosure. It's a part of self-awareness. The second is receptivity to feedback. So when people tell me something, I should be available. There are people who say, okay, give me some feedback. വേണ്ട സർ സാർ കുഴപ്പമില്ല അങ്ങനെയല്ല പറയണം എന്നെപ്പറ്റി നിങ്ങൾ വേണ്ടി പറയണം എന്താ നിങ്ങൾ എന്നെപ്പറ്റി പലതും ആലോചിക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവില്ലേ പറഞ്ഞു ഇല്ല സാർ സാറ് വേഗം ചൂടാവും ഞാൻ ചൂടാവാറില്ല and then end of conversation. Right? This is how people are not receptive to feedback. But we talk about it all the time. I might myself not be practicing it, Very easy to talk about, right? But hard to practice. And the third one is action orientation. People talk about many things, they give feedback, but they don't follow up. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ പറയുമ്പോൾ പറയും, ഓ ഇതിൽ നല്ലൊരു ബുക്ക് ഉണ്ട് കേട്ടോ, ഞാൻ പിന്നെ കാണിച്ചു തരാം, ഞാൻ അത് അയച്ചു തരാം എന്ന് പറയും. Then I'll forget it. But good disciplined people will immediately follow it up by sending you a link. And wow, people will say, wow, what a guy. So seek feedback for growth, and giving it and taking it regularly in life is the first sign of emotional maturity and intelligence. So at this point, let's break the monotony by telling you why feedback is so important in communication. Because after all, communication is about the ABC of communication is about ABC. Always be confident. Now, this man shows you what happens when others listen to him and follow his advice. See how influential he must be feeling. And who are these people following him? Very interesting. Watch it. So now you realize that the one language across the world for communication, which gives and takes, and of course makes you very confident, is love. So if you love what you do, there's a lot of passion. If you love the people you work with, there's a lot of compassion. That's the best way to grow as a person. And of course, this is a great example because we grew up listening about the Pied Piper of Hamelin, some famous story from Denmark, and then you never believed it till you saw this man here in this clip. So it is possible that every one of us has powers which we don't know about communicating to other people. One of them is called the EBA. The EBA. All our relationships can change. And let me just share that with you today. It's a very beautiful concept. The EBA is an expansion of is expanding to emotional bank account. Every relationship is like a bank account. So what do you need for a bank account? First a deposit, only then withdrawal. And you can never withdraw more than your deposit without an OD. And you cannot have you might have a TOD, temporary overdraft, as you have in COVID time. But you can't live on a POD. And many people try to live on a POD. Right? They're all the time asking for help, never helping anyone, including your parents. In fact, nowadays, I know if you went home and, because you're so selfish, you go and tell your mom, Mom, you look so beautiful. She'll say, you want coffee? Tell me directly. I'll make it. I know how I look. Because everyone is calculating and trying to get things out of each other. But in a good EDA, you deposit and then you get the right to withdraw. So what is the currency we are depositing? Trust. So a good EBA is a great way to influence people. It is also a great way to get influenced by people. So to have mentors, to develop, gurus who will guide you, teachers who will love you and take that extra step for you, it comes out of that process of EBA. So that is one thing that you could do, right? And most importantly, I think it is to remember that most of us are paid professionally for two things, but we remember only one. We are paid for two things, but we remember only one. One is to get a task done, a job done, or a task done. So we get a salary. But what we don't realize is we're also paid to get along with other people. And people who do both become very successful in their professional lives. So I would tell young people today, learn the art of not just getting things done. You might be very good on the computer, you might be very good on digital technology, but also develop your soft skills in getting along with people by using the EBA. And you will realize that this world, Ubuntu, is about interdependence. It's not about dependence. It's not about, I'm independent, I don't need anybody. It's not about dependence. Oh, without you, sir, how will I manage? Today it is about interdependence. I know the skill. I can log into that person, get that done, pay for it. And today we realize we don't need offices. We don't need any structures. Everything is digitized. It's available in a locker. Go there, show it, and get your work done. So it's the world is changing. And we were talking about the Internet of Things, and Mr. Murli Madhukuri was talking the other day about so many new things that are happening. He talked about artificial intelligence, but people like me are safe in this world because there may be a limit to artificial intelligence, but there's no limit to natural stupidity, right? And as long as human beings behave stupidly, there'll always be a need for a counselor. Like yesterday, we were listening to Smita Kiran Warrior, and there's so many other people who are today treating schools have counselors, colleges have counselors. Why? Because human brain will never become completely clear enough like a computer. So when we have to give feedback, three things are required, and I'm going to tell you quickly. Make a note. Internal clarity. I call it intrapersonal clarity. Yep, yep, that's important. I should be clear before I do something, right? And interpersonal connectivity. I should know how to say it to the person the way I would like it said to me. So I use empathy. And most importantly, impersonal civility. Whatever happens, don't lose your temper or use the wrong words. Be civil. And civil society is the very basis of our existence today. Once you break down civil society, there's nothing left to live for. So I think we want our children to grow in civil society. And therefore, we should give them a world that is worth living for. And for that, I want you to remember why feedback is so important. Feedback is actually based on two things, right? Normally, fact and feeling. Now, when you do performance feedback, unfortunately, the facts are not always clear and the feelings are not always clear. They're always muddled by perception. So if I come thrice late to a meeting, I get a reputation that this guy can't be trusted. Now, it could be just the 3 times out of 3,000 times that I've come to work that I was late. But that's enough for the feeling to, oh, you can't trust him. So facts are easy to follow. That's why people make a note of it. Don Bradman has an average of 99.96 in cricket because he got out for zero in the last innings that he played. If he had hit a boundary, his average would have become 100. Now, facts are very easy to understand. But what makes this whole story so interesting is that it is the feeling behind having missed a boundary before realizing that you could have been the only person ever to have made 100 runs average on every inning. When you realize he's the greatest batsman, there are other sides to him. He was also called the mean batsman, who never allowed others or loved them enough to as a captain. Even Sachin Tendulkar is not remembered for captaincy. So I'm not starting a debate. I'm trying to tell you that facts and feeling get together, and you have to work on both. You can't ignore both. But what happens really is your reputation has to be managed because feelings affect our performance and spoil our reputation. So if you don't manage them, you'll be in trouble. But facts are easy to follow but hard to ignore. So don't ignore your facts and always manage the feelings behind the facts. So, what is the best style? I would end by saying keep your style free. Free meaning don't complicate it, don't make it complex. Let it sound like I was confident enough to tell you what I feel. I'm not holding myself back. So, am I a free bird? That is what I mean. Not how much am I paying for this feedback, right? A lot of people take the feedback because you're paying for it. In fact, they want to defend, and that's why on the internet you would have, on WhatsApp you would have seen this 1,000 times that people actually listen only to reply and not to understand. If you want feedback, you have to understand, not just reply. People are paying, so you listen to them very dumbly because after all, he's paid for it, let him shout a little bit. That's not good handling of feedback. Listen seriously, make an attempt. We work with the Taj Group, and the Taj Group is Oberoi is also very good. So many other companies are very professional. Even small organizations are professional, but they are trained to take the feelings of the customer with a smile on the chin. To remember that it is not they who are being attacked; it is the service that is being attacked. So the main thing to remember about free, frank, firm, and friendly feedback is one thing to remember. People are attacking an experience or a process. They are not attacking people. If somebody brought you a cold glass of water and it was not cold enough because you asked for it, you can yell at that person saying, "Don't you understand what is cold? Is this the way to give water?" You can yell, but the fact remains that he knows what is being attacked is what was done there and not the person. But the way the language, abusive language especially, hits you very badly because you think it is being personal. So that's what I meant by impersonal civility. Be nice to people even when they are being rude, because you don't have to be bad just because they are bad. They have shown their character, you show yours. That's the importance of handling feedback. This I'm talking about handling in a service industry. When you learn to handle this well, you also learn to give it well. And that's what they do in the army. They say if you want to learn to command, first learn to obey. So in the army, they teach you first to obey. And because you learn how to obey, you learn to command. So let me come to the last part, which is what happens for difficult feedback. And nowadays, there's a lot of hiring and firing during COVID. People losing their jobs and being told that they can't be kept. So when there is a failure and you have to deal with it, I often use this 3F formula, which we started out in sales, telling them how to deal with people who don't want to buy. But today, we're not talking about objections from the customer. We're talking about a customer who's just angry with you, and or you have to advise him or her. And what do you do? An employee who's very upset with you. And the 3F formula fits very well here. The first thing is empathy. I know how you feel. The second is, I too felt that way, or he too felt that way when he was sacked. But this is what we found. So, feel, felt, found is a very beautiful empathy route to explain things that people find difficult to understand. I'll give you an example. A man who followed this when he was fired by a boss was so influenced that he went back to the boss and thanked him. And then they became such good friends that he wrote a book in America. Thank you for firing me. Normally, people say, "Thank you for hiring me." He said, "Thank you for firing me. Because you fired me, I realized my value as a human being. And I learned that I could do much better in life if I went with it." So, how do you influence people? And that's what I'm going to touch on at the end. A few tips that might just brighten up your screen literally. So, my next slide will literally make you feel like, three ways to influence people. So, what are the ways? One is very simple, use your head, logical. Okay. The second is emotional, and the third is cooperative, which means Ubuntu. Right? Let's collaborate. And you could actually be fighting on the skill to beat the other person in tennis, but at the end of the game, you are the best of friends sharing your tricks, because ultimately it is the execution that gets you the money and not the idea. So if I tell you how to play a forehand, and if Rafa Nadal tells Djokovic how to play a double-fisted backhand, neither of them will lose anything, because both have to practice in a way to execute and to win. It's the same between us. It's the same between any two employees. It's the same between husband and wife and children and parents and siblings. You have to just learn to perform without any anxiety. But don't allow feedback to come in the way of your own growth. So, logical appeals, use your head. Emotional appeals, use your feelings. Don't allow your feelings to use you. And cooperative appeals are even more interesting. They're between the two. So, one more thing that I thought I should share with you is what happens when you're confused and you use mixed signals. I'm sure all of us have done this when at some point in your relationship, right? And today, when I talk to youngsters, it's always that special her or that special him, and should I, shouldn't I? And they call me and say, Uncle, she's not agreeing. He doesn't want to shift from Delhi. She doesn't want to come back from America. What do I do? When we are talking, and we are saying, can you see a pattern in the everyday? Yes, 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 yes. But can you see a larger pattern in the big picture? Can you see a pattern here? So don't allow people. And the simple way, and I hope it works as a good dating tip for you today, don't allow somebody to be a priority in your life for whom you are an option, right? So if you want to close that deal, then it is feedback coming all the time, which you have to work on to negotiate. So this is one thing that I wanted to tell you. Mix signals, shoot at them, find out. Big, and this is called confrontation. Tell them, look, this is the seventh time or the eighth time, and convert them into positives, because and that we call the growth mindset. You need to grow, right? You're not happy with the feedback that you're getting. So how do you grow? Just convert the way you're dealing with it inside your head, and that's what I'm going to talk about: the growth mindset. Yes, the growth mindset is about converting a simple thing like jealousy. Yep, next slide. Jealousy, for example, or let's say problem. What do I do? How do I seek an opportunity out of a problem? How do I change my don't knows to find out? How do I change my jealousy factor to admiration factor? I think I'm jealous about that guy. His English is fantastic. What do? I start admiring him. Hey, where did you? The so-called Shashi Tharoor syndrome in Kerala, right? That girl who is now probably, going to be not just known to him now, but probably a very, very good version of him soon, right? From Idiki, I think there was a girl. You should look her up. Okay, so what about difficult things in life? Convert them into lessons. What about things like, you know, what about people who are all the time, optimistic about life and they're not sure what to do with it? You say, well, that's good feedback for me. When people say, Mr. Keshav, I loved your session. Earlier, when I started 30 years ago, I used to think God has sent me to change them. And I used to wait on the phone and I say, oh, good. And thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you liked it. If there's anything more we can do, great. Let's collaborate. Keep the doors open. But don't worry about anything because you yourself are sure about your growth mindset. So, any one of those things that are happening in your life, convert them from the inside out. Don't blame the world, right? Take it inside, process it with that little brain you have, and turn it into a great opportunity for growth. So, having said this, I'm going to end with a very, very, very interesting video, right, about how you should value yourself. Because without our own value, life is worthless. So, let's listen to this very, very small, short video. Who would like to start? I'm going to give it to one of you, but first, let me do this. Who still wants it? I do. What if I do this?
what's it now? My dear students, I just showed you a very important lesson. No matter what I did with this money, you still wanted it because it never lost its worth. It's still worth $20. So there are many times in our lives when we feel like life has crumbled us up and ground us into the dirt. We may make some bad decisions or have to deal with some poor circumstances. Sometimes lives can make us feel worthless. But no matter what has happened, no matter what will, you never lose your worth. You never lose your worth. Forget that.
Yeah, so that's a nice way to look at life. Value yourself more than you think you do. Right? Nobody or nothing in the world, and Swami Chidananda used to love saying this. Nobody or nothing in the world is worth your tears. ആർക്ക് വേണ്ടിയും you don't have to give your tears for anybody, including yourself. No self-pity. Whatever it is, you are born to live and live well. So, what I said today looked very simplistic, I'm sure, and it takes years to actually believe this. But I think it changes, the big picture, as I say, BIG, big picture, starts with B, belief, I, intention, and G, goal. So if you want to make a goal out of growth, it starts with the belief. Today, I would have just talked about the importance of feedback and how to give it and how to take it. Start practicing it. Start looking at it seriously. And then you'll have to practice it on a daily basis till it becomes your muscle memory. Dhoni, Virat Kohli, Sachin Tendulkar, Rafael Nadal, A.R. Rahman, Amitabh Bachchan, Mohanlal, they don't become great watching others on screen and eating potato chips. They become great making you watch them every day eating potato chips. And for that, they worked hard. What comes easy won't last, and what lasts won't come so easy. So I think we all need to realize that giving feedback is an art. Start working on it, but motivate yourself till you enjoy doing it and it lasts to make you grow much beyond what you ever believed. Good luck, everybody at Professional Trainers Club. It's been an absolute privilege to be with you today. ഞാൻ ഇത്രയും എൻജോയ് ചെയ്യുമെന്ന് ഞാൻ വിചാരിച്ചില്ല. നിങ്ങൾ എൻജോയ് ഉണ്ടാവുമെന്ന് ഒരു ചെറിയ ഐഡിയ ഉണ്ട്. ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് ഉണ്ടോയെന്ന് അറിയില്ല. ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും I'll be very happy to continue supporting what you're doing and, of course, getting a lot of support from you in the process. But Kerala is born to be a great place. It is, like I said, Trishur is the center of the world or the earth, right? So I want you to believe that all of us are in the right place at the right time, and we are giving the right feedback to the world and getting the right feedback all the time. So thank you once again, Mr. Varghese Koikara, for the wonderful keynote that you gave me this evening. And Dr. Mary, lovely words in introduction. All of you, wonderful that you're spending this whole week in learning and development. I can't think of a better way to grow as human beings. And all I can say is many, many more years for this organization to grow. I want to hear much, much greater things about the work you do. And in whatever way we can do, let's make this country proud of what we are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that great presentation, sir.
Thank you, Mola. Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I hope there is other feedback. If there is anything, sure, I'd be happy to answer. But nobody needs to force themselves, but I'd be happy to answer if there are questions.
We have some questions from our viewers. May I invite Shri M.Keshav back to the dais. I request Shri C.K. Suresh, Director, ATMA Foundation, to facilitate the question answer session.
Thank you, Keshav, for the wonderful session.
Thank you, Suresh.
Yeah. The first question Emotional maturity is a precondition for giving and getting feedbacks in the right
Yeah.
spirit, isn't it?
Yes, yes and no, in a sense, because maturity, how do you judge it, is itself a big study now. So, very young people, very ordinary people whom we feel are not mature enough according to the rest of the world seem to be very mature. And so, the whole idea of branding maturity itself has become a area of study. So, I feel. For example, if you're talking and somebody yawns, it's bad manners, but it's very good feedback for the person who's open to understand that if this man is yawning, he is not interested. So, this is how I understand maturity. It takes both sides to be mature enough. So, we can't judge who is mature enough and who's not.
How will you connect the concept of nonviolent communication developed by Rosenberg to your model
Yes.
of feedback?
Yes, see, nonviolent communication in itself is a very, very high sign of maturity. And there are people who are now studying how we can introduce that in a world where there won't be any war at all, which is, they believe today now there is no war going to happen. Today, now they believe that no countries can take the risk of a war. So now that we have reached that stage, can we actually talk about non-violent communication as a day-to-day transactional tool for learning? And so I believe that research is going on. We have done it. Even our Vedic research shows that it is possible. Some of these concepts, of Satyam Vada, Priyam Vada, right? These are concepts that we have had even in the past. But today we are now trying to introduce that, and I think it is possible. Most places people don't want violence; they want confrontation, but without violence.
Do you consider performance appraisal is a value-added product expected from the art of giving and getting feedback? Can we practice this art in all situations without making unpleasant mindset in others?
Uh, it is the first assumption is that it is not possible to please everybody. The idea is if you have self-awareness, then you will know who is not pleased and who is pleased. And then you will be able to address the person who is pleased in a particular way, and the one who is not pleased in a different way with a strategy. But having said that, you will always have this issue that where do you draw the line in trying to please everybody with feedback? So today, the standard templates are gone. You cannot have standard appraisal templates being filled by people, robotic filling, grading of 5, and then you don't know where. Most of them just stick down the middle. 3 is the usual, 3, 3.5, 4. Nobody wants to go to 5, right? So even to standardize and normalize that, we have to have sensitizing session to tell them that, my 4 and your 3 are equal, I think, right? Because the way we judge, ആ ഒരു പ്രശ്നം എപ്പോഴും ഉണ്ടാവും. So I don't think appraisal is going to work. I always joke that if you did that at home, no marriage will survive. If there was a form at the end of every year, right? We give and take in marriage, and I think we should learn to give and take at work. Those values have to be used at work as well.
For communication to be
Win. Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah. Sorry.
for
Go ahead.
communication to be effective, trust is
Yeah.
to be built. Trust is very important. How to build
Yes.
that trust?
Yes. So, it's the other way around. For trust, communication is important. Communication is within our control. Trust is not. ഇപ്പൊ ഞാൻ സുരേഷിനെ കണ്ടിട്ട് സുരേഷ് ഐ വോണ്ട് ടു ട്രസ്റ്റ് യു ബട്ട് ഹൗ ഡു ഐ നോ ഐ കാൺ ട്രസ്റ്റ് യു ടിൽ ഐ നോ യു ടു നോ യു ഐ ഹാവ് ടു സ്റ്റാർട്ട് കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേറ്റിംഗ് സോ വി യൂസ് എ മോഡൽ കോൾ CTCT, communicate for transparency. Then transparency leads to commitment, and commitment leads to trust. സോ ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ആക്ച്വലി ബിസിനസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരാളായിട്ട്. ആദ്യം കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേറ്റ് ചെയ്യും, അത് മാച്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ നമ്മൾ ട്രാൻസ്പെറൻസി നോക്കും, എത്ര ഓപ്പൺ ആണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഒരാൾ പറയണത് ഞാൻ ചെക്ക് നാളെ തരാം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് നാളെ തന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ that itself is a sign of I need to check this man. But if he calls and says I have a problem, ഇന്ന് തരാമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് സോറി പറ്റിയില്ല കേട്ടോ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ then communication moves it to the next level of transparency. എവിടെ വീട്, എവിടെ ജോലി, എവിടെ പഠിച്ച്, ഇങ്ങനെ ചോദിച്ചിട്ട് we get to the next level. And then commitment. You ask for something and they give it. And the Japanese will even come to your house and go to the toilet just to see your standards. അപ്പോൾ അവര് വിസിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ വന്നിട്ട് ഡിന്നറിന് വന്നിട്ട് ടോയ്ലറ്റ് പോവും ആദ്യം. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കും ഇയാൾ എന്താ വന്നോടനെ നേരെ അകത്ത് കയറിയത്. ബട്ട് ദാറ്റ്സ് ദ വേ ഹി ജഡ്ജസ് യുവർ സ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡ് ഓഫ്. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷനിലാണ് ട്രസ്റ്റ് വരുന്നത്, നോട്ട് ദി അതർ വേ റൗണ്ട്. വെരി ഡിഫിക്കൾട്ട് ടു.
Feedback and blaming. How to differentiate? People are fond of criticism more than giving a feedback.
So invariably people can make out. ഞാൻ 3 V's-നെ പറ്റി പറഞ്ഞു. അതിന്റെ ആ 3 V's-ല് വെർബൽ ആണ് ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക്. ആക്ച്വലി കംപ്ലൈനിങ് ആണെങ്കിൽ വെർബലിനെ മനസ്സിലാവുള്ളൂ. Right? If that complaint is actual feedback, then the person will call for action at the end. ഞാൻ ഒരു സാധനം വാങ്ങി, കടയിൽ വന്ന് ഇത് നന്നല്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അപ്പൊ സാർ ഞാൻ എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടതെന്ന് അങ്ങോട്ട് ചോദിക്കുക അയാളോട്. അല്ല തിരിച്ചെടുക്കണം. അപ്പൊ സാർ അതിന്റെ പകുതി കാശ് തന്നാൽ ഞാൻ അങ്ങനെ കമ്പനിയോട് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് തരാം, ഐ വിൽ ഡു ദ സ്കീം ഫോർ യു എന്ന് സെയിൽസ്മാൻ പറയുക. അപ്പൊ അതൊന്നും പറ്റില്ല, ഞാൻ എങ്ങനെയാ അത് ചെയ്യുക? Then normally what they do is they investigate whether it is just a idle complaint or whether he is really trying to give feedback. In fact, there is an interesting website called mouthshut.com, mouth shut, where you write all the complaints you have, you can post. ഇന്നത്തെ എൻ്റെ സെഷൻ നന്നല്ലെങ്കിൽ മൗത്ത് ഷട്ടിലിടാം, നാളെ എന്നെ ആരും വിളിക്കില്ല സെമിനാറിന്. അത് ഓപ്പൺ ആയിട്ട് പറയുകയാണ്, ഞാനൊരു ഫിലിപ്സിന്റെ ഇത് വാങ്ങി, മറ്റേ വാങ്ങി ശരിയായില്ല. സോ യു ക്യാൻ കംപ്ലൈൻ, ബട്ട് ദ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഇസ് ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് ആണെങ്കിൽ യു വിൽ ലുക്ക് ഫോർ റിഡ്രസൽ, യു വിൽ ലുക്ക് ഫോർ എ സൊല്യൂഷൻ. And if it's a complaint, then it is normally from the tone that you know that the person is complaining. The emotional fact and, as I said, feeling and fact, if you can separate it, you can work on the facts if it is a complaint. But otherwise, it is not a feedback, it is just a feeling. Then he will just, once he has shouted, he will feel better and he will go home.
There's another interesting question. When people in important positions think they are perfect, those who give an unpleasant feedback is targeted sometimes.
Yeah, now I agree that, the most important thing is self-respect. ഇങ്ങനത്തെ സിറ്റുവേഷൻസിലൊക്കെ ഒരു ഡിലേമ വരും നമ്മുടെ മനസ്സിൽ, എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്. അപ്പോൾ നോർമലി ഐ ഓൾവേസ് സേ മെന്റലി മേക്ക് എ നോട്ട്, what do I lose if I react? Right? And that is called a trade-off. ഇപ്പൊ ഞാൻ ഇയാളോട് ചീത്ത തിരിച്ചു പറഞ്ഞാൽ I lose his business totally. Right? Can I survive? അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ I don't mind. But if I feel, no, I cannot survive, my children are going to school, I have to take it, then I go home and shout at my wife because he shouted at me. That is not fair. അയാൾ പെർഫെക്റ്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ but with my role I must learn to accept that he is being immature, he is behaving immaturely. Second part is very often such people feel ashamed after they behave that. Most of them live in hell. In fact, Swami Chinmayananda used to often say, people are not punished for their sins, they are punished by their sins. അപ്പൊ ഇങ്ങനെ ബിഹേവ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാര് അവരുടെ മനസ്സിൽ ഇതിങ്ങനെ കടന്ന് കളിക്കും, ഞാൻ എന്തായി എല്ലാവരുടെയും പോയി ഇങ്ങനെ വിഡ്ഢിയാവണം, വൈ ഡോണ്ട് ഐ ബിഹേവ് ബെറ്റർ എന്നൊക്കെ തോന്നുന്നുണ്ടാവും. ബട്ട് he is not able to, he thinks he is perfect. So idore ego trap aanu. There is a very good book by a guy called Brian Holiday, Holiday, on ego. Very beautifully written book. I think his first name is Brian, but holiday na aditya verum. About ego, the title is about the ego. I read a lot and I don't retain them. I don't, but I love that book a lot. So look for it on Google. You'll find.
So thank you very much. With that, we come to the end of this question and answer session.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Suresh. I think it's a great initiative. I hope it grows. And congratulations to everybody who's involved in it. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Suresh, sir. I request Dr. Vinita Aravind, freelance trainer, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening. We all expect feedback for our performance, whether it's a show or a speech or a training, right? And even in our day-to-day conversation with friends or family also, we cannot continue with the feedback, at least an expression. So we all like someone telling us how it was, and similarly, we should also know how to take a feedback. നമ്മുടെ മലയാളികൾ ശരിക്കും പിശുക്കരാണ് ഈ ഒരു കാര്യത്തിൽ. റോക്കറ്റ് സയൻസ് ഒന്നും അല്ലാന്ന് സാർ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ, പക്ഷെ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യാറില്ല അത്. കൊടുക്കാന് ഭയങ്കര വിഷമം എന്നാ കിട്ടുന്നത് ആശയുണ്ട്, അതാണ് എപ്പോഴും നടക്കുക. So, respected Chief Guest Sri M.Keshav, President of Professional Training and Self-Esteem, members of MPC and our dear viewers, I feel quite privileged to offer this thanks today. Our speaker today, Sri M.Keshav, beautifully explained to us the art of giving and taking feedback. And with your words, it really felt like an art, sir. And I hope we all will start practicing this art in our words, at least